All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Kachalis, and I'm the Director of Strategic Insights for Bridge Tower Media. And I'm going to be your host for today's webinar, focusing on understanding the complexities of online furniture and home goods delivery. We have a lot of great insights to cover on the webinar, and I'm very excited to introduce our speakers for today. But before we get started, there's just a couple housekeeping items I'd like to go over. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please submit them in the questions section in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the webinar, we're going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to answer your questions. If at any point you're having technical problems during the webinar, we ask you to please try logging out and logging back in, or send a question in the chat box where a member of our technical team can answer your question. And then finally, if you've registered for today's webinar and missed a segment in today's presentation, there will be a recording link that will be emailed to all registered attendees. All right, now that that's covered, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Our first speaker is Janet Vito. As the VP of Marketing and Sales at uShip, Janet brings 30 years of experience in the technology industry to the logistics space, with a focus on delivering real-world value to shipping customers. Her experience with software as a service and enterprise software have led to an array of key roles with powerful tech industry players like Dell and Accruent. Janet has a proven track record of results-driven performance, consistently remaining sharply focused on her mission to providing value to business customers no matter her role. Our second speaker for today is Karen Baker. Karen is the CEO and founder of ShipperHQ, the leading platform for storefront shipping rate management. With over 20 years of business experience in technology, Karen has firsthand expertise built from dealing with the shipping struggles of many thousands of retailers since 2008. All right, now ready to start. Janet, I'm going to be opening up the webinar to you to begin your presentation.
All right, thank you, Mark. Thanks for that great introduction. So I've been at uShip for about a year and a half. And like Mark said, you might have spent my career really delivering value to business customers through a variety of different technology companies to a variety of different customer types. One fun fact about me is my father was career military. He was in the Air Force. And by the time I was 10 years old, we had lived in 3 different countries and 3 different states. And then he retired at the ripe old age of 47. Don't you love those career military people? So about uShip, if you're not familiar of uShip, simply put, we are an online marketplace that connects people and businesses who need to ship large and bulky items, so things that don't fit in a box, to carriers and drivers that have empty truck space. So think of Airbnb, very similar to that. We've been around for 15 years, have done over 2 million deliveries, and last year alone, we had 40,000 active carriers on our network. The uShip in-home delivery program is specifically geared to online furniture and large and bulky retailers, and we help enable these retailers to expand their reach nationwide, reduce logistics costs, and increase your operational efficiencies. So I'm super excited to have Karen Baker join. And Karen, I'd invite you to give an introduction of yourself and your company.
Thanks, Janet, and thanks for the intro. Yeah, I'm with ShipperHQ. We really sit at the intersection of the e-commerce platforms like Magento, BigCommerce, Shopify, and connecting those in with business logic into the carriers. So uShip is a carrier we have an integration with, along with the likes of UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc. And we really add logic on top of what's going on at a carrier level in order to be able to allow retailers to be able to set promotions, free shipping, a surcharging, expedited, showing a calendar and dates and such like. So I come from England, as you can probably tell. I'll try my best with my American accent. It's not going to go too well. My fun fact is I'll take the contrary to you, Janet. I never actually went abroad until I was 24. So now I'm based in Austin, Texas, and loving it down there. So thanks very much for having me.
All right, thank you, Karen. So before we start, I would like to poll the audience with a question. So Mark, if you could post that question up to the audience. So the question is actually a question that we asked in a survey that we conducted, asking buyers about their online furniture buying experience. And so if you all could start answering that. But the question that we had asked in the survey was, what percentage of shoppers said they'd avoid a boutique furniture retailer if they encountered high shipping costs? So you see some choices there. Do you guys think it was 15%, 38%, 56%, 71%, or maybe you don't want to guess and you want to click I don't know? So if you all could answer that question, and I guess, Mark, whenever you want, you can go ahead and post those results. I'm waiting for those results before I tell you what people answered. It looks like the vast majority, not vast majority, just under the majority thinks it's 71%. A good chunk think it's 56%. Some of you think it's 10%, but it looks like the 71, 56% are the winners. Yeah, thanks for that. On our survey, what they answered was 56%. So very close to what you all believe. And it just goes to show you how shipping plays a big part in the whole decision process for buying furniture online. All right, so moving to the topic. So really, this topic for today is understanding the complexities of online furniture and home goods delivery. So I'm going to kick it off to Karen to talk about the evolution of selling.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of imagining a lot of the audience on watching this webinar, you're selling furniture goods, and we're thinking about how are you actually doing that, and there's various ways that you could be doing it, and the various ways that in the future you could be doing it. So we can't just kind of try to split these out, right? We see, a lot of you having bricks and mortar showroom and selling predominantly that way. Some of you just going straight in and selling via Etsy and eBay, like that seems like a good nursery channel like to get set up on, and for some of you the channel you will always stay on. On the website side, setting up a site so people can find you and see what goods you've got in, and there's challenges around that, like if your goods are changing a lot and the stock's changing, like how do you keep that up to date? But that's a good first start, right? People know where you are, they can search you on Google and see what's going on there. The next stage, and we see this is like for a furniture retailer, it's very much in its infancy around this area, but getting yourself up and running with an e-commerce platform, and we'll delve into this a little bit, but the main ones really for getting up and running, getting started are Shopify, WooCommerce, and the big commerce platforms. Pretty easy to get set up on, a lot of theme templates there for you to get going with. But that's a way that you can reach an extended audience beyond just your local market, and a good way for you to expand your channels out. And then finally, we talk about like bringing in an agency and management, software. Magento, is a bigger platform now and much more suited in this area. So as you grow as a retailer and you have more complexity, or you need to be doing, different things, and really want to be like looking at things like abandoned carts and the revenue side and trying to increase that, then having a bigger platform and an agency involved is really going to help you on that conversion side and just growing your business out.
Yeah, thanks for that, Karen. And so really, no matter what channel you're selling through or the multiple channels you might be selling through, there are some common roadblocks. And one of the big ones is shipping and logistics. So some of the questions you might ask yourself to demystify the shipping and logistics of large and bulky of furniture and large home goods is, what's a good shipping rate, right? How much does it cost for me to ship from Austin, Texas to Los Angeles, or from Tampa, Florida to New York City? You might also, who's reliable and trustworthy? I'm trying to get my china cabinet sent to this location. Who can I trust? And also, what about damages? Especially if you are selling product that is not pre-packaged and crated and palletized, and you have to, maybe it's custom made, or maybe it's just unique items or vintage, damage rates are a real concern. And so if you don't have a clear logistics strategies, there's a number of downsides, as you guys can imagine. Whether you're selling high-end furniture or patio furniture, right? You need to have that clear logistics strategy. So some of the downsides include overpaying. So you may be paying too much on shipping rates, or maybe you're being hit with a lot of accessorial fees on the back end. Another big one that we hear about is high cart abandonment rates. This could be multiple reasons. One, you could have a high shipping cost appear in the cart, Or what we find with, with retailers that we engage with before they start using us, they don't really have a shipping option that is seamless through the cart checkout process for large and bulky. It will say something like call or email, and that definitely can get people leaving your cart. The other things you need to consider is if you're, shipping maybe traditional LTL or less than truckload freight, you got to package those items, otherwise they're going to really damage. So how much does it cost to package and crate? Slow delivery times. You need to understand what your buyers are expecting, and if you're, don't have a clear strategy in place, you could be really disappointing them on delivery times. And then I touched on the fifth one here a little bit, which is high damage claims. So you select the wrong type of carrier option for what you're selling, you could see some very high damage claims, which, it's a big nightmare, as you all have probably experienced in some way, shape, or form, whether you have to decide you want to get the item back, decide to send a new item, decide to try to fix the item. It becomes very costly. So we are going to cover 5 best practices for demystifying shipping and logistics. And I'm going to go over the 5, and we'll go over them a little bit more deeply. So the first one we'll cover is giving buyers choice at checkout. It's really important. Selecting the right shipping method, as I mentioned. Determine your shipping price strategy, whether you offer free shipping or something else. How do you reduce those damage and insurance claims? And last, really taking advantage of omnichannel selling. So I'm going to kick it off to Karen, who's going to talk over our best practice number 1, which is add shipping options to your e-commerce site.
Yeah, I think, if you're just coming online or thinking about coming online, like what we often see in this space, like is, you have a store, and you can do local delivery, like you're doing that with a van or something like that. And I think when you're first starting out, I would highly recommend, like, keep it as simple as you can, like with your website and what you're doing, and just sort of go in with really small steps and try things out. Don't even necessarily put all your products online. This just shows a very simple checkout where you're just going, like store pickup and local delivery within 100 miles and just a flat fee on this. So it's quite wide ranging, right? Like, so if somebody like comes in and maybe they're just buying a lamp, right? Like could lose some customers out of that, right? Because they're not going to pay $80 to have that shipped to you. But on the other side of it, if it's too much, like a big, dresser or something like that, then maybe it's costing you more. So you've got to work out like your strategy around this and where your margins are, and be prepared to win and lose a little bit. But this is a good way to dip your toe in the water. I think if we go on to the next slide, that shows like when you sort of go further along, right? So actually giving people information about where they can pick it up from. Maybe you've got a couple of stores, and it stops them from moving away from the checkout. So you're keeping them very much in there. You've got a picture of the item as well. Like, you're trying to like keep them going through and making that buy from you. And the delivery, just tidying that up a little bit, but actually making it where we're not now saying within 100 miles, we're not making them work it out. We're actually calculating that for them based on the information they've entered, and we're able to offer this to them. The next slide on shows where you can just open up like a new market. So like with uShip, for instance, like you could just be selling locally. And I think now there's a big move towards people wanting to buy product from all over the country and get that delivered. Certainly in the furniture space, we all want unique. We don't want to be going, to the Amazons and the Wayfair so much. Like, we want to come and get this from local stores, as it were. And so the in-home delivery, like showing that where it's relevant. So this is a California address, they're up in Chicago. Well, there's no point showing store pickup, really. It's just not worth it. So let's show them that, but let's also set the expectation around the delivery side. So I think with the type of goods that we're talking here, people are prepared to wait for it, but what they want is information and communication from you, and that's what's most important.
Thanks, Karen. So on the second best practice is really around selecting that right shipping method. So in general, for furniture and home goods delivery, there are in general 3 choices. There's what a lot of people call white glove delivery. So that is your premium service. You're going to have 2 or 3 people come into the home. They're going to deliver the item into the room of choice. They're going to remove the debris. They're going to do any complex assembly. They might remove something old, like an old bed frame, and really provide that high-end service. The second level is what we like to call room of choice. So the carrier will bring it into the house, room of choice, remove the debris. Maybe there's light assembly, screwing the legs on a sofa. And then the third option, which we run into a lot of retailers using, which is LTL, less than truckload. And LTL works great if you're shipping dock-to-dock palleted freight, where you can run into a lot of problems as you're trying to ship something that's palleted to a home. There's accessorial fees that you'll encounter just having that truck having to go into a residential area. And then generally, LTL freight will drop it off at the curb. So that might be fine depending on what you're shipping, but for a lot of furniture, it's not, and the buyers definitely expect better service. So how do you figure this out? So you have to take in a lot of factors of determining the right shipping method for your business. I mean, there's the size of the item, the weight, how fragile it is. You might, if you are an art dealer and you have a $40,000 chandelier, that's very different than if you have a sofa. You have to think about what how far it's going. Is it going across the country? Is it just 20 miles away? How fast your customers expect it to be there, and just what your customers expect generally in terms of level of service. And, over here on the right, the options, if you have to pack and crate your item, if they're not coming to you that way already, who's going to do it? How much is that going to cost? How long is it going to take? For standalone furniture, blanket wrap, room of choice really works best because it's something that can be easily done. And really, you think forklifts and furniture, they don't mix. You don't want, the forklift guy coming and picking up your china cabinet with that equipment. And then, of course, there's palletized furniture. So LTL freight generally does cost less, but it does get left at the curbside. And once again, if that's fine for your buyer's experience, it works. But for a lot of in-home delivery, it does not. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on best practices. Go ahead. Yep.
Sorry, I was just going to say on that slide that you don't need to have like a single strategy here, right? Like, because I'm sure a lot of people thinking, well, I have all these different types of furniture and like, and I'm selling various products and how do I deal with that? I think the big thing is about grouping together. I would say like working out your different types of goods that you're shipping and then being able to say, right, how do I ship each of these different types? Because you can then define a strategy for each of them. You don't need to have one strategy like LTL for everything, right? But you could be using that in some scenarios, and you could be using small package in some scenarios, and uShip in other scenarios. And I think that's important to know that that is possible and something you can do.
Yeah, thank you for that, Karen. It definitely is possible, and we have a lot of customers that have those needs. They have multiple needs. That parcel shipping fills some of it. Palleted shipping, they have some specialty needs for that $40,000 chandelier, and I think it's the key really is having those choices, understanding what you can use and for the products that you're selling. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this best practice. It's really setting the shipping price strategy. So a couple of other data points from some surveys that we've conducted. Which is nearly half of furniture buyers say high delivery costs will cause them to look elsewhere for an item. And about 31% are willing to spend over budget for the perfect piece, which should make a lot of furniture retailers excited that people are willing to spend more if they believe it's the perfect piece. And, just in general with the e-com market, furniture is just a fraction of the e-com market, but it's growing, 20% year over year. And the vast majority of furniture companies aren't actually selling online today, but what we're hearing is a lot of them want to and need to, and they have to figure this shipping strategy out in order to be successful. So some of the questions you might ask to set a shipping price strategy is, what's the average sales price of your items? Are they high end, low end, in the middle? People are willing generally to pay more for shipping if it's a more expensive item. Who's your target market? Are they millennials, baby boomers? How unique is the product? People are willing to spend more on shipping. And then what are your specific business goals and the KPIs for your company? So I'm going to go over 4 shipping price strategies. The first one, what we're all super familiar with, and Amazon has helped us all get there, is free shipping. So you essentially offer free shipping while you either fold costs into the price of your item to help cover those costs, either the entire cost of it or part of it, or some combination depending on the piece. You know, some of the pros, as you can imagine, buyers are expecting more and more free shipping. You're meeting their expectations. You're leveling the playing field with some of the bigger retailers out there. It's a very streamlined checkout process. They don't have to think about, oh, I'm buying a $1,200, end table. What's shipping going to add to it? It's just $1,200. And then, which clearly can lead to reducing cart abandonment rates. The biggest con, I think, around free shipping is figuring out how much it costs to ship. And so as a retailer, if you don't have transparency into the cost of what it's going to cost you to ship that item, it's difficult to figure out how you can recoup some of those costs or manage that cost in your business. The next one, which we see a lot of customers use, is subsidized shipping. So there's some sort of low standard delivery fee. You might even offer some sort of bulk discount. The pros is while it's not free, it's an attractive price. And some of the similar pros to free shipping, leveling the playing field with higher volume sellers. Eases the customer through checkout process, not quite as easy, but it can still be very easy. On the cons, it once again, really you have to truly understand and have transparency into predictable shipping rates in order to do it. And if you're not one of the big nationwide retailers, your negotiating power with 3PLs and nationwide traditional freight is pretty limited, and so it's really hard to get those rates down. So we have a customer that has categorized their product into in basically 3 buckets, where this bucket of products, it's going to be $95 to ship it anywhere in the country. This bucket, it's going to be $195, and this other bucket, it's going to be $295. So it's very easy, very transparent to their buyers. There's no confusion there, and it works very well for them. The third option for a pricing strategy is break even. So you're essentially passing all the cost of shipping to the buyer. Pretty straightforward to you. You're like, I know it's going to cost $125 to ship it. I'm going to add $125 in checkout. Depending on your model, it actually can create some trust and loyalty with your buyers. The biggest con really, though, is most buyers don't really understand how much it costs to ship large and bulky items, especially going long distances. And so you could be, having buyers leave your checkout process because of it. We have seen break-even shipping successful with customers for sure, and it really comes down to the uniqueness of the item, and whether it's hard to get or custom made or vintage. Many buyers or shoppers are definitely willing to pay for shipping because they know they can't just go to 5 other websites and get the same thing. And the last shipping price strategy is pretty unique. It's revenue shipping. So this is where you actually make money on shipping charges. The pro is clearly very oriented to the retailer. You can make some money doing this, and then it also can help cover some of the out of scope, carrier charges and maybe some of the back end accessorial fees. The con, if you don't do it right, is really that conversion rate. Now, we have a couple of customers and it's a very unique use case. One of our customers does this, but they essentially are an auction house, and so every item on their website starts out for sale at $1, and then people bid on those items. And so if you can imagine, there's this antique china cabinet that's valued at $3,000. Well, I'm bidding on it. I get it for $1,200. I'm okay spending $500 to ship it because I'm still ahead. I've spent $1,700 for a $3,000 item. So it works very well for them. And so, but before you consider this strategy, you really need to understand if your buyers will be willing to pay that kind of money. So Karen, maybe you could chime in a little bit here on some of what ShipperHQ customers do in terms of pricing strategy.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of opportunity, to combine this together, right? I think that sometimes people have this, the Amazon effect of free shipping can be scary, right? And we're wondering how do we make money here? How do we survive? How do we ship to new markets, etc. And the margins are just frankly not there to give free shipping. I think the things to do are to really focus in on what you can do, and then where you can add money elsewhere, like maybe do revenue shipping. Like, for instance, if you can do it expedited, so you could actually just say, look, you can get this faster, but it's going to cost you more. And you'll find a lot of people will be prepared to pay for that. The big thing about free shipping is hooking people in to get through into your checkout. And then from there, you can basically offer them further choice that allows you to really claw back some money, right? So even just, saying that it's going to take a week longer, but you could pay an extra 20, 30 bucks, like you're getting this clawback going on there. But it really, really does depend on the products as well that you're selling. I agree with you. Like, if you've got a unique product set, then, there's a lot more opportunity for you to be able to charge the full cost of shipping, especially around the freight space. But I would definitely encourage, don't offer free shipping everywhere. I mean, if you go on the platforms, like, that's often the default, right? So you don't want to be doing free shipping up into Alaska. Don't go there. So and maybe even just go, all right, I'm in Ohio, and I want to get it out, and maybe ship into Kentucky and places like that, and just restrict it right down about where you're offering a free shipping promotion. And if somebody wants it from outside of there, then you charge them. And I think all of that kind of setup is possible. It's just about, I think your customers, like the retailers, like, you really understand your business and where people are asking you to go. And I think, like, working within those boundaries and trusting yourself and what you want to do, and then setting that up. But I would definitely say don't try and bite off, too much in one go. Like, try things out, see how it's working, and step up from there.
All right, thank you, Karen. So what you're looking at now, we will send this out to all the attendees of this webinar. This is a shipping price strategy quick reference guide. So across the top, you see the 4 different shipping price strategies that were covered: free, subsidized, break even, and revenue. And down the left are basically the characteristics. And so it's a guide that you basically fill in, and it'll give you an idea of what you should do for your shipping price strategy. So on best practice number 4, reducing damages and insurance claims. So I want to tell you this: damages are, at least from what we hear, are the number one concern among sellers trying to ship their goods. We actually hear from customers before they started with the uShip in-home delivery program of getting 20 to 30% damage rates. I can't even imagine that 20 to 30% of the inventory I ship out to buyers gets damaged, and how a business can continue to operate that way. And so one of the biggest reason for this damage rate is really the way that traditional freight works. So if I'm going from Nevada to Oklahoma City, as this map is showing here, what typically will happen is the item will get picked up at my warehouse or my store. It will then get put into a truck, and it will be sent to another warehouse where it gets taken off that truck, and will be put onto a second truck where it gets consolidated. And that might happen again, depending on how far it's going. And then finally, it'll get to the destination city where it's taken off that truck and put into the final mile carrier's warehouse, and they get put onto the last truck. Now, depending on how well your items are packaged, this is a lot of potential damages that could occur if you think about the blanket wrap china cabinet or something like that. And that is the biggest reason that they are seeing these damages. One plug about uShip, the in-home delivery program, is that our customers, when we pick up the item in Nevada, it will actually never leave that truck until it's delivered. Now, the carrier and driver, they might pick up other shipments, and most likely they will, but they're never going to take it out of their truck, and they will be the person or people that deliver that item to in the home room of choice with debris removal. And so another thing that you should always consider, though, in damages, and damages can still happen, even the uShip way, right? Because this is logistics and things do happen. So really, to mitigate risk, you really should consider cargo insurance. So you might have 5 questions you want to ask before buying insurance. You might think, well, won't my carrier's insurance cover damages? Well, it depends on the carrier. Carriers might have personal liability insurance or commercial liability insurance, but that's not the same as cargo insurance of what happens to the item during transit. You need to really understand whether you're getting a good rate for that coverage. Are you getting full coverage? What's the deductible? And then the biggest thing that we hear on insurance is how quickly are the payouts processed? Is it heavy paperwork? How long does it take? If indeed the carrier is to blame for the damages and freight, how long does it take to figure this out? So you have to keep all of those questions in mind. So I'm going to move on to the last best practice, which is expand through omnichannel selling. I'm going to hand it over to Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think, we kind of loop back a bit to the first slide where we spoke about, the various different ways that you could be selling, whether you've got a store, the people can come in, whether you're actually even transacting online. I think we're seeing a massive move around, the social media side, right? Instagram, like everybody's, on there. If you're not on there as a furniture retailer, like you're missing out on a whole thing there. I think like get on there tomorrow and start just posting pictures and slowly going down that walk. You'll be surprised by how quickly your followers go up on there. But I think the key thing here is that, there's lots of different ways that you can transact. You don't have to do all of them in one go or feel like you have to do all of them in one go, but like slowly going down a path and using sort of trusted providers, obviously like uShip. I'm obviously going to mention you guys, but using people where you can just try stuff out, see does this work, and then expand on it is key. But I would say like key message, and we see this a lot with retailers that we talk to, is just they're scared about like where do we start and how do we start, right? We're doing well as a brick and mortar store, right? Or we're selling well on eBay, we want to expand it, we don't know how. I think that the help is there to aid you in that, and honestly it doesn't always need to be an expensive venture, right? Depending on what size you are. Like you can slowly go into this, and you can just get on your phone tomorrow and start posting pictures on Instagram, and that's a great first start. Like you can go on Shopify, use one of their templates, and get a store up and running in 3 or 4 days, right? BigCommerce is the same. So, like there's routes in here, and I say don't be intimidated by what you see and worry about the big high costs around this and everything else. I think you can keep those down, and as you grow, you'll see that that return on investment and go, all right, now I'm prepared. I want to put more money here because I can see the return, invest in advertising, etc. But it's pretty easy to get in there for the start. But social media, first port of call, I would say.
All right, great. So we have one last polling question to end this with, which Mark, if you could go ahead and put that up, given what Karen just talked about in terms of what your primary channel is. So we'd love to hear from you all. We at uShip run into a lot of omni-channel retailers who are selling through multiple channels, even 2 channels is multiple. And so the question is, what's your primary channel for selling? Are you primarily brick and mortar, telephone, email, online e-commerce, marketplace, or social media? And maybe there's some other variants of that, but if you all could pick one that's your primary, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Mark,
interested
if you could go ahead and put those results. Yeah, me too.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, that's an interesting take, right? I was expecting that, a lot of bricks and mortar.
Yeah, I was too, and I think the marketplaces, I was also expecting very high brick and mortar. I'm actually pleased to see marketplaces because they do make it easier to jump on there. But I do agree with you, Karen. Like it is easy to go to Instagram and start taking pictures of your items and putting them up there. We're starting to run into more and more retailers that use Instagram.
I think the thing that you're doing there as well is you're building up your brand, right, and your exposure, and you like, not even selling there, right? They ring you up and stuff like that. But all of that brand build up, when you go and build your website, you're going to find, all right, I've already got that in place. So it's just a great first start, really.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so a quick recap. Number one, 3 recaps. Shipping doesn't have to be this mysterious black box. You can figure this out. And smart shipping decisions can not only help solve a lot of problems, but opens doors and opportunities. Expanding nationwide might be seemingly daunting to you, but it's not that difficult to do. And then last, as Karen drove home at the end of this presentation, really, omni-channel selling, it's easy to get started, easy to expand beyond maybe your brick and mortar or how you're doing it today. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Mark, who's going to lead us through the Q&A session of this webinar.
Yes. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Karen, for all that great insights. We're now going to be opening up the webinar for questions. If you've not already submitted your questions, you can now do so by putting them in the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We're going to try to get to all your questions today, but if we run out of time, you will receive a response via email. You can also email questions to the contact information you see on the screen here. All right, so it looks like one of the first questions we have is, do you service the interior designers and design firms?
So the question is, do we service interior design firms? Yes, we do have customers that are interior design firms that are buying products for their customers. So yes, we do.
Okay. Right. Another question we have here is, of the 20 to 30% damage rate, how much is from a forklift?
And this is Janet again. I don't have the stats on that per se, but a lot of when we hear that 20 to 30%, it's a combination of either they're using LTL shipping for things that should not be shipped that way, or it's just traditional freight going from one warehouse to another, especially the high-end vintage furniture and the custom-made furniture. I don't have the stats on exactly the breakdown though, but I can go track that down, at least on our end.
Okay, great. Right, another question here is, what kind of transporters does one find on uShip?
So on uShip, I generally like to categorize the transporters in 3 categories. And one, I want to add that on uShip, all the transporters have been feedback rated, much like your Airbnb marketplace. So we have people and businesses who ship will feedback rate the carriers and transporters. So we have traditional freight companies that come to uShip. They use us as a place where they have empty truck space and they can carry extra capacity. We have what I like to call uShip professionals. We use that term internally. And what I mean by that, these are carriers that are entrepreneurs, owner-operators. They've started and built their business on uShip. And then the third, which I would say most of this third category falls into shipping needs for consumers more so than businesses. But they're I call them part-timers, and they can be very high-quality shipping experience, but it might be the retired couple that likes to take 3 trips across the country every year, and they help pay for their trip by going on uShip and helping deliver items. So those are generally the 3 categories of transporters on our platform.
Great. All right. Another question we have here is, which e-commerce platform do you like best?
I can take this one.
Karen, I'm going to defer that one to you. Yeah.
I think I can't really say. I've got to be careful there, right, with my partnerships. But I think for the market, the market and the people that we're talking to here, you can really split them into 2 parts, right? Like BigCommerce and Shopify are very easy to get going with, offer a lot of functionality. They're also hosted, with them, so you don't have to worry about that infrastructure costs, and you don't need to be too IT literate. WooCommerce and Magento are much more, you need to get your hands dirty. They do offer a lot more extensibility. Like WooCommerce is very much like WordPress, which I'm sure a lot of people on the line have got, those sites running already. But you definitely getting your hands dirtier, and I think it really depends on the size of your business and your needs. What I would say is like form a questionnaire and go and quiz these platforms, and see what their response is to you, and see what that relationship is like as well, because that's going to be as important as the technology.
Okay, great. Right, another question we have here is what support is available to us as we begin to utilize uShip in home delivery?
Sure. So if you become part of the uShip in-home delivery program, you actually get a dedicated customer success manager. It's kind of like having a logistics person here at uShip dedicated to helping ensure the success of your deliveries. You also get additional product features and functionality that you don't get otherwise if you're just out on the open marketplace. These include being able to cultivate a more curated network of carriers, along with some operational efficiencies, especially if you're shipping 10, 20, 30, 100 items a month, that make that much more seamless and efficient.
Okay, great. All right, here comes another question we have. Can I not integrate uShip with my sales platform and just do each shipment online? We build custom items, so there's usually 3 months between order and shipping.
So yes, we have. You can integrate uShip. We have APIs that you can use to integrate into whatever system you have. ShipperHQ is a partner, and they have our APIs integrated with their system. If you decide to become a ShipperHQ customer, if you're using your own system, whether it's your own e-com platform, like you said, a sales website, a inventory management system, you can integrate our APIs to automate it, so that as you know, that automation will happen, so the listing will automatically go to uShip. So yes, we do have that available.
And I think on this one, like it's important to say, that you can put in API integrations into ShipperHQ as well, if that's what you want to do, and put it in your platform. And then the additional thing you can set up inside these systems on top of what uShip is offering is being able to say, well, these products have a 3 month or a 1 month lead time, and then getting the rates based on that, and having all that inside the system, rather than every single time you having to do that manually. So this is going to enable you, as you sell more products, to not having to keep, like for each one working it out, which should help you scale your business.
All right, great. Okay, another question here is, if we request a shipping quote, do we get more than one?
So in-home, I'll answer the question from the uShip experience. If there's several ways. So if you're just coming to the uShip marketplace, not through in-home delivery, you can put your shipment on uShip out for bid. So carriers will bid and say, I will ship it for this amount or that amount, which is an option. I think that works if it's a specialty item. It works if you're very low volume. And then the other way you can put it out there is through a price. So one of the things we have for our in-home delivery customers that I forgot to mention is we've been shipping furniture online for 15 years. And so we have a pricing algorithm that we put together where it will recommend a price for you. It's like a pricing calculator, recommends a price for you, and you say, okay, I want to ship this item for $125, and it'll put that price out there. So nobody bids on it. So carriers will either come on and say, yeah, I would like to take that offer. And then as the shipper, you say, yeah, I would like that carrier to ship that item, and you can review the carrier. There are situations, especially where there may not be very great coverage in the more difficult lanes, where maybe it needs to be $135 instead of $125. But generally, the pricing that we suggest will get covered 90% of the time.
All right. Okay, another question here is, please describe the flow of communication that ensues from the time goods leave the manufacturer warehouse until it's delivered in the customer's home.
Okay, so on uShip, so essentially the listing gets posted. you say, yes, this carrier can take this shipment. The carrier will notify the location of pickup within 24 hours of when they will be there. You might specify a pickup window. They're going to, the driver or carrier will notify, say, I'm going to be there during this time to just confirm pickup. We'll pick it up. And then 24 hours before delivering it to the buyer, they will contact the buyer and just confirm delivery time. And then we also have tracking, digital tracking that will show you, the various statuses of the delivery, as well as GPS location, assuming that the driver has that turned on. It's not always turned on, but if you're really interested to see where that person is, you can.
Okay. All right. Another question we have here from respondent here is, do you service B2B and direct to consumer, meaning dock to dock as well as white glove?
Yes, we do. So we have an LTL offering on uShip. And so essentially, if you have LTL dock to dock needs, what we've got are 30, we have negotiated LTL rates with 30 plus different carriers, ranging from FedEx to YRC. And essentially, the dock to dock works really well. The benefit of uShip is that because we have this volume, we will probably get better rates than if you aren't a common LTL shipper and you call up UPS and you ask them how much is it going to cost, it will be very much higher rate. So the benefit really is the rate, but we do have that offering and it's very successful for those dock to dock needs.
Okay. All right. Another question is, what's the best way to see some sample rates for in-home delivery so we can compare costs with our current shipper?
Sure. So one, email me, jvito@uship.com if you're interested in that. What we can do is, what we like to do is get some, a list of sample shipments that you've done and do a cost analysis. So we'll put our rates against it, and we'll be very transparent. This is what our rate table is coming out with, and this is what your experience paying. So uShip isn't going to be the cheapest always, but it's the level of service and the dedicated customer success manager that you get. But we're generally very affordable compared to traditional freight.
All right, great. Looks like one of the last questions we have here is, how does ShipperHQ and uShip work together?
Yeah, I can cover this one off. So we have an integration into the uShip in-home delivery. So that basically will pull back the rates based on what's in the cart. And then there's an option at the end when the order's placed to actually then go and list in the uShip marketplace to get that up with the images and the product so that the shipment can be made. That's the basis of the integration, and obviously ShipperHQ is sitting on top of that. So if you need to put additional rule logic around it, like with the surcharge and the discounts and free shipping, etc., then we're there to support all of that, and also in line with other carrier needs that you might have if you're selling some stuff by small package and the like, or store pickup. So the integration kind of works in there like the images showed you earlier.
All right, well, thank you, Karen, for that. And that concludes today's webinar. That is the last question for today. I want to thank Janet and Karen for the great insights you provided today. It was very insightful. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today on today's webinar. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.